Mike Davis joins us now. He's the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. He's been watching all of this. Mike, good afternoon to you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And Mike, what do you make of it?
Well, it's part of the Democrat lawfare and election interference we've been talking about for the last year, Vince, going back to the Mar-a-Lago raid last August for the non-crime of a former president having his presidential records, which is allowed by the Presidential Records Act. You had the Manhattan DA, the Soros-funded Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, indicting Trump for the non-crime of a businessman settling a nuisance claim. Now you have both Jack Smith and Fannie Willis, this Fulton County buffoon DA down in Atlanta, indicting Trump for the non-crime of objecting to a presidential election, which, before Trump was only illegal in third world Marxist hellholes. It's allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887. It's allowed by the First Amendment. Democrats objected to Republican wins in 1968, 2000, 2004, and 2016. But, it's like, I keep saying this, it's like the Kavanaugh confirmation. The Democrats are really overplaying their hand, and it's going to backfire spectacularly on them like it did during the Kavanaugh confirmation. They couldn't just stick to Christine Blasey Ford, who was lying through her teeth, but she was the most credible of the 6 allegations. They brought in 5 more bogus allegations, and each one cheapened the one before that. They're doing the same thing here. They couldn't just stick to the Mar-a-Lago presidential records dispute. It's clearly covered by the Presidential Records Act, not the Espionage Act, but that was their most plausible case to go after Trump. And they brought in 3 more indictments and maybe more.
So you think people like Fannie Willis and Alvin Bragg, they're the Julie Swetnicks of this story?
I think Fannie Willis is Julie Swetnick, maybe, and Alvin Bragg is Michael Avenatti, or vice versa. I'm not sure, but they're both just total buffoon Democrat prosecutors who are in these Democrat hellholes. And so, back in Manhattan or in the hellhole of Atlanta, they probably are getting high praise from their whack job constituents. But this doesn't play well for the rest of the Democrat Party across America. It actually is going to hurt Democrats. It's going to hurt Biden. It's going to put President Trump back in the White House. And they're going to be stunned on November 5th, 2024, when this backfires on them spectacularly. It's going to be bigger than 2016.
Mike Davis, one lesson from all of this is that these prosecutors, these agents of the state, are so tyrannical and lawless. What are the consequences for just trampling the Constitution in pursuit of a political agenda?
Well, Trump's going to win on these cases ultimately, and it may require getting to the Supreme Court, and it may not happen before the presidential election, but the consequence is going to be on November 5th, 2024. And I will say this to the House Republicans and state attorneys general, Republican state attorneys general, to the extent that there are any Republican DAs out there, they need to toughen up. The reason Democrats have been so emboldened over the last year to indict a former president for the first time ever, let alone 4 different times, who happens to be the leading presidential candidate, is because they feel almost no blowback. There's no consequences. And House Republicans can fix this immediately. Open an impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden for his corruption and Merrick Garland for his cover-up. Open it up for their weaponization of the Justice Department. They need to have aggressive oversight. Issue subpoenas for documents. Issue subpoenas to have these people come in for depositions. Have public hearings constantly. It's a zero-sum game. If these Democrats are on offense, they're not on defense. And if they're on defense, they're not on offense. And we need to have them on defense. We need to have them hiring their own lawyers and being on defense for their real crimes, their real weaponization. And our side is so weak about this stuff. I praised Jim Jordan for sending that letter to Alvin Bragg. I stopped criticizing him for that after he did that. I praised him again for sending that letter to Fannie Willis. We need to be doing a lot more than letters. We need to be doing hearings. We need to be doing subpoenas. We need to be doing depositions. We need to be doing impeachment inquiries. House Republicans need to include appropriation writers. 2 of them. No federal funds may be used to prosecute a major presidential candidate on or before November 5th, 2024, in any state or local jurisdiction that prosecutes a major presidential candidate on or before November 5th, 2024 loses all federal funding. We have not had an indictment of a former president ever. We have not had an indictment of a leading presidential candidate ever. This is unprecedented by the Democrats, and Republicans can't normalize this. We need to fight back.
Also, as a basic principle, the obligation for dealing with presidential wrongdoing, alleged presidential wrongdoing, is the impeachment process. In the wake of the events of January 6, 2020, Donald Trump was impeached and then acquitted in the United States Senate. Mike Davis, this is something that's already been litigated at the exactly at the place that the founders expected it to be.
Absolutely. And also, if you look at federal statute, these state and local prosecutors cannot prosecute federal officials for what they do within their official capacity. And they are charging President Trump for ordering his vice president to object to the election. President Trump cannot do that as a private citizen. He can only do that as the president of the United States. Therefore, he has presidential immunity, and there is Supreme Court precedent on point on this case. And you're going to see, I hope, President Trump filing a motion to dismiss on both of these January 6 cases, both both Fani Willis's and Jack Smith's. And if the Michigan AG, if the Arizona AG who sold the election out there, if they think they're going to file lawsuits on January 6th, there are motions to dismiss that are almost certainly coming. Number one, to the extent you're saying Trump did this as president, presidential immunity, it's the outer perimeter of his presidential power. There's clear Supreme Court case law on point. And to the extent that this is within his personal capacity as a presidential candidate, it's First Amendment protected redress of government. They're not alleging that he incited the riot. They're not alleging that he extorted a politician and said that I'm going to, go kill your son if you don't do this. There's no allegation whatsoever. The political process is messy, right? It's boorish at times. That doesn't mean it's criminal.
One of the things we saw in the wake of the 2020 election is Donald Trump file a number of legal challenges in the variety of the states about the way that the elections were conducted. And we didn't see much appetite for judges to seriously take on his challenges. In fact, we saw a tremendous amount of cowardice from the judicial branch around the country. Do you think there is enough courage, common sense courage among judges in order to right this ship in the country?
Well, I hope so. But, I'll tell you what President Trump and his legal team need to do this time. They can't wait until the election is over to file their legal challenges. They need to get injunctions in place ahead of time that these state election officials cannot unilaterally change election laws by fiat. They can't blame COVID. It looks like they're trying to come up with the COVID excuse again so they can blame Biden's failing economy on COVID and use COVID to steal the next election. They can't use COVID again to unilaterally change election laws. If you want to change election laws in this country as it relates to the presidential election, it has to be through state legislatures, that they pass the laws, the governor signs them, or it comes from Congress. Congress passes the laws, the president signs them. You can't just have unelected bureaucrats say, okay, we're going to get rid of signature verification. We're going to get rid of election observers. We're going to mass mail ballots, live ballots out to these lists of voters, even like college students who have moved several years prior, and these live ballots pile up, and then you get rid of signature verification, and you get rid of election observers, and that is just a recipe for fraud, right? If there's spoliation of evidence in litigation, meaning if you hide evidence from the other side, you can presume that evidence was bad for you if you are hiding it. And I don't know why the same thing can't be said about, getting rid of election observers, the people who are supposed to gather evidence for these elections.
Mike Davis, should Donald Trump prevail in the face of all of this election meddling the left is undertaking right now and become president of the United States again, how clear of a priority should be reforming our justice system be for him, and what should that look like?
Well, I always joke that I'm going to be the acting attorney general during my 3-week reign of terror as Trump's acting attorney general. I will fire everyone on day one and indict everyone on day one and deport and detain and Gitmo or the DC gulag, and I will, or maybe the Atlanta jail. It sounds like a real hellhole, so that'd be a good place for the Democrats, and recommend pardons. But look, Republicans need to get serious about taking on the permanent government bureaucracy. And what needs to happen is that the FBI in particular and the CIA in particular and these intel agencies and law enforcement agencies instead of just having one politically appointed director at the top and then having these, Andrew McCabe's and Peter Strzok's types who are burrowed into these to the top layers of the management, what needs to happen is that at least the top three layers of the FBI, the director, the deputy director, and the assistant directors, including the special agents in charge of the D.C. and New York and other key field offices, need to be president appointed and Senate confirmed. They say that it will make it political. No, it would actually make it more accountable. They're already political. And the same thing with the CIA and the other intel agencies and law enforcement agencies. At least the top three levels need to be accountable to the American people through our elected president.
And one of the other pieces here that always it just leaves my jaw dropped is the extent to which the people who are now indicting Donald Trump are such explicit political actors. I mean, everybody on David Weiss's team, the donors to Democrats and the Biden campaign specifically. If you're dealing with prosecuting Biden's top political opponent, you should not be anywhere near a case if you are a donor to the president's campaign.
I mean, remember that before Jack Smith got appointed the special counsel, I mean, his wife was a donor to the Obama campaign. His wife produced a video for Michelle Obama. Jack Smith got appointed to a senior job, the head of the public integrity section by Eric Holder in the Obama Justice Department. I mean, these are all political actors. On the original team from Main Justice, from the counter-espionage unit, they had a lawyer on there, and this is on Jay Bratt's team before he became counselor to Jack Smith. Jay Bratt is a total goon who inappropriately tried to threaten one of a co-defendant's lawyers. If the co-defendant didn't turn on Trump, the lawyer was looking at a D.C. judgeship, and allegedly this Jay Bratt threatened this judgeship if his client didn't turn on Trump. It's just highly inappropriate goon material stuff out of Jay Bratt. But they had a Senate Democrat staffer, a Democrat partisan staffer from the Senate Judiciary Committee, worked for two Senate Democrats as one of the lead attorneys on the Mar-a-Lago case before I exposed her and she got chased off the case. But that's the problem with Obama is the one who radically transformed the Justice Department, the career people at the Justice Department, along with the CIA. He's the one who politicized the law enforcement agencies and the intel agencies, and we've never recovered from that. We need a house cleaning. Like I said, we need to get rid of these people at least the top three layers of each one of these intel and law enforcement agencies and replace them with politically appointed people who are presidentially appointed, Senate confirmed, and accountable to the American people.
Yeah, big time. Obama at the root of so much of this. Mike Davis, founder and president of the Article 3 Project. Always good to talk to you, sir. Look forward to doing that again soon.